Well, hello again. I thought today I'd have the camera pointing out of the windscreen rather than pointing at me, so you can see some of the really nice scenery here in Western Australia. Now, as usual, I've been looking at the claptrap on YouTube about ET. There's a couple of channels there that always delete my comments. There are a couple of newbies. Picking up a few subscribers now, but I'm not going to mention who they are because as soon as I leave a comment on there, they delete it. They're not interested in an opposing view at all. They don't want you to see any opposing views, to give you anything to think about. They want to push their narrative, and they've said as much. You know, they believe it's happening. Anything else, it's a cover-up. It's a truth embargo. They're really not worth bothering with. Now, I was looking at one of these yesterday, and I saw this guy I'd never heard of before on there called Michael Herrera. And I started listening to this guy, and I thought, oh, here we go. This is another one that's jumped on the Grush bandwagon. Absolute science fiction nonsense. I got to the point where he said either he was involved with, or someone was telling him they were involved with luring alien spacecraft to a certain point and then shooting them down. Presumably this is going to be in the desert in America somewhere. So luring alien spacecraft and then shooting them down. Now, to get here, aliens are going to be pretty smart, you know. The chances of luring them are 0. The chances of luring them and shooting them down are 0. The chances of doing that more than once, 0, 0, 0. You're not going to do it more. You wouldn't do it once, let alone more than once. You know, it's complete and utter science fiction rubbish. He started off with, yeah, well, he gave evidence to the Inspector General that he'd been told by people that this was going on and they'd had experience with it. You know, so he's another Grush. He's jumping on the Grush bandwagon. He thinks, well, you know, some people are grifting and living out of it. Why can't I? Is the impression I get from Mr. Herrera. Personal opinion. The name I couldn't remember of the religious professor that went out into the desert, you know, with Gary Nolan, blindfolded, depending on which version of the story you listen to. It took 40 minutes or an hour, and there were 7 or there were 4 crashed alien spacecraft. Her name, I couldn't remember her name. Her name is Professor Diana Walsh-Pasulka, which is probably why I couldn't remember it. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Gee whiz. But she, of course, has a book, Cosmic Codswallop, something like that. She's peddling a book, so she's jumped on the ET bandwagon. And she was saying that she saw a strange owl. Now, what does a strange owl look like? You know, I mean, I don't think I've seen an owl in Australia, but you know, what does a strange owl look like? Of course, she's tapping into the all the UFO fanboys and fangirls out there going, oh yeah, well, you know, we know aliens, you know, sometimes give the appearance of being owls. Just in the same way she was tapping into the Roswell nonsense with her scrunched up material, you know. In her hand, she can scrunch it up and it unscrunches. When it's all over the desert floor, it doesn't unscrunch. You know, it's ridiculous nonsense. So personal opinion, I would put a line through this Professor Diana Walsh-Pasulka, put a line through Michael Herrera. Sorry if I got that wrong. Complete and utter nonsense, science fiction rubbish. Apparently she saw this owl, strange looking owl, and she suffered missing time. Now, or experienced missing time, don't know whether you'd suffer it or experience it, but largely what would happen during the missing time. But apparently her husband, who is a skeptic, and is still a skeptic, was with her. And he didn't see anything at all, so he's still a skeptic. And you know, you hear these stories about these alien abductions. You know, they say, "Oh, I was lying in bed. You know, then I was floated through the ceiling or through the wall onto an alien spacecraft, and they had a chat with me, and they poked around in my nether regions. And then, what do you know? I woke up in bed as though it were a dream." And of course, if you invite someone, if someone says, okay, this is happening to you on a regular basis, can I just watch you one night, when this happens every Wednesday night, the aliens pop round for some Yorkshire tea and for some cucumber sandwiches. And they say, yeah, sure, yeah, you can sit there and watch me. And the investigator will sit there in a chair and watch them sleep all night in bed. And in the morning, the abductee will say, wow, that was some experience. I was floated through the ceiling. They showed me all around the ship. They showed me the engine room. And the investigator will say, well, you were there. You didn't move. And then the abductee will say, oh, yeah, well, they only abduct my consciousness. They don't abduct me physically. They abduct my consciousness. So there's nothing to see, is there? Absolute rubbish. Unbelievable. People really believe. Do they really think people believe this hogwash? This absolute rubbish. What else have we got? I've got a couple of notes here. Oh, the Soul Foundation, yeah. So Gary Nolan, he's one of the founders of the Soul Foundation. Very appropriately named, actually, the Shit Out of Luck Foundation, as the Americans say. And they're going to be shit out of luck if they think they're going to be analysing any extraterrestrial, biological and technological material. But Nolan's talking it up. Oh yeah, we're going to get disclosure, controlled disclosure, by 2030. Now, not going to happen, of course, because there's nothing to disclose. It won't happen by 2040 or 2050, And it has to be pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because there's nothing to disclose. They can't produce anything. They can't produce any tangible evidence today to prove any of this is real. So it has to be pushed back. Well, it's got to be gentle disclosure. We can't let it all out at once. Well, think about it. If there's official disclosure from the United States or anywhere else, there's nothing more to it than an official statement from the president saying, well, now we know for sure we're not alone in the universe. We have recovered extraterrestrial material, biological and technological material, and we're trying to find out where it came from, and we're trying to find out its technical parameters. That's all they can say. They can't say anything else. How can you make that any softer? It's completely and utterly ridiculous, isn't it? And I was looking at the speaker list for the Shit Out of Luck conference that was at Princeton University, invitation only. I didn't get an invite. Can you believe that? Gary Nolan, shame on you. And I was looking at the speaker list, and the speakers, I just couldn't believe it. I wouldn't pay $10 to go and see these guys. Eric Davis was there, of course. Hal Puthoff was there. Jacques Vallée, well-known science fiction piffle peddler, seems to think if you can put people in orbit, you can travel between stars. Is completely clueless with regard to the size of the galaxy and everything else, but from what I can gather. Leslie Keane, of course, was there. She's the woman that was that put the New York Times article. No, it wasn't actually. No, it was the debrief, wasn't it? The article in the debrief, 2017. The New York Times wouldn't publish it because they wanted to sort of fact check. Oh dear. And she was the one that was, when interviewed, said she wanted to lead the narrative towards the extraterrestrial. She wanted you to believe it was extraterrestrial. This is when she was talking about ORSAP. And as we now know, ORSAP was more about chasing hordes of dino beavers and werewolves around Skinwalker Ranch. And she didn't mention any of that because she thought it would destroy the credibility of what she had to say, and she wanted to lead people along the ET narrative. So she left all that ORSAP stuff out. That's Leslie Keane. Now, Avi Loeb. Now, I like Avi Loeb. He had his sledge going across the ocean floor, he dredged stuff up and he gave it to people to analyse. That's the way it should be done. And he's quite right when he says, if you don't look, you never know. Can't argue with that. His stuff come back as coal ash from a steam boiler, steamship boiler. I made a mistake actually on one of my videos. I know it sounds preposterous that I would make a mistake, but I did. And I said it was magnetic, that stuff that he dredged up, and of course it's not, but it will stick to a magnet. But, you know, and of course he's got his detection equipment on top of Harvard University, and he's trying to coax an alien spacecraft into flying above it, so he can take some pictures and record some sound. He's obviously a half glass full kind of guy, you know. Now what I have to wonder is, if Avi Loeb, Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff are all at this shit out of luck convention, Princeton University, sitting around the dinner table or in the bar having a drink, you know, Avi Loeb is going to say, because you know Avi Loeb is man keen on this. He wants to know, is ET coming here? He's a serious investigator. He's not a science fiction piffle peddler like all the others in, as Senator Tim Burchett says, the ET industry. All the frauds in the ET industry. Avi Loeb, serious investigator. Now, he's sitting in the bar, or he's sitting at the dinner table with Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis. The people that have been spruiking this for years, they're the guys that have been saying they've got this alien material for years. So Avi Loeb is bound to say to them, Hal Puthoff, you've got this ET material in a shed somewhere, you've been working on this project. Same thing to Eric Davis. Okay, where is it? Where are these materials? Can I have some to analyse? I would love to analyse some of these metamaterials that you guys have. And they're going to go, and they're going to be doing their best fish impressions. And their jaws are going to be gaping and closing, opening and closing like fish. Because they are going to have no idea what to say to someone like Avi Loeb. Because obviously Avi Loeb can take the samples back to Harvard and test them. What are they going to say to Avi Loeb? Now, Avi Loeb hasn't said he's been given any samples to test, has he? You know, so Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff are going to be saying, well, we'd love to, but you know, we're not involved anymore. This is legacy stuff. You know, we're not involved with it anymore. It was stolen. You know, the dog ate it. It was in the boot of my car. The car was stolen. Sorry, Avi. I would love to have been a fly on the wall when Avi Loeb asked them about their personal experience with ET materials, just to see what they said. And I would really like to have heard what their response was when he asked if he could have any samples to study. Now, Hal Puthoff, of course, was given that bismuth, layered bismuth magnesium material. Supposedly, it was given to him anonymously. So what a provenance, anonymous material given to Hal Puthoff. Told it was a part of an alien spacecraft. Actually, I'm just looking at my watch, 5:10:15. If this runs more than 20 minutes, this camera tends to record, I think, 20-minute sections. So this might be part one. I'm not going to bother putting it all together with Movie Maker. If it's in more than one section, I'll publish this on YouTube as, you know, part one, part two. If I keep going long enough, part three. So, so he's got this bismuth and magnesium layered material. Now, Gary Nolan loves this stuff. He thinks it's metamaterial. He was telling Russ Coulthard all about it, and he was saying that it's got these little cavities in it. You know, so he's obviously thinking of sort of cavity magnetrons, sort of thing you get in microwave, well, power microwave generators. You know, microwave ovens is a domestic example of that. And he says, oh yeah, if you excite it with terahertz, it's got these weird and wonderful properties. We had to give it to the military though, because no one in Civvy Street can excite it with terahertz. And I thought, well, that's pretty ambiguous, you know. What is the exact frequency for a start? Sounds to me like he's pretty clueless when it comes to this technical stuff. Probably a wizard with biological stuff, but he sounds a bit clueless to me with technical stuff. Excite it with terahertz. How many terahertz? How many fractions of terahertz? And of course, what he doesn't realise is that, you know, lasers are generating terahertz every day of the week. They have nanometer wavelengths. you know, I could get a laser and excite it with terahertz, piece of cake, no problem. And it was actually looked at, this bismuth and magnesium layered material, and I said it was a part of a lead purification process, and I couldn't remember the name of the process, but it's actually Betterton-Kroll is the name of the process. So if you get to watch this, Mr. Nolan, Dr. Nolan, have a look at your metamaterial, and then have a look at some industrial waste from the Betterton-Kroll lead purification process. Shouldn't be too difficult to get hold of some industrial waste from the Betterton-Kroll lead purification process. Just have a look at it and see if it's consistent with your meta material. Gary Nolan, of course, is UFO fanboy, and he said he's got these meta materials, and someone was saying, when are we going to get the results from your analysis? And he was saying, you're not entitled to my results. You're not entitled to my results. Can you imagine that? So he's had the alien sphere, you know, the metal ball from Texas. We haven't heard what the results of that are, as I've said to you, you know, on numerous occasions. And Russ Coulthard said it weighs exactly 50 pounds. Do they seriously think aliens are going around the galaxy engineering artifacts using terrestrial imperial weights and measures? So he's sitting on the results from that, and we're not entitled to the results from his analysis of these other metamaterials he's got. Now you can bet your life, being a fanboy, he analysed them as soon as he got them. He would want to know straight away whether that was ET material. We're not entitled to the results because it's not ET material. He knows it's not ET material. If he knew it was ET material, we'd be more than entitled to his results. They'd be all over YouTube. They'd be all over the internet. Dr. Gary Nolan says, you know, we have ET materials. But we're not entitled to the results of his research on these metamaterials because they're not extraterrestrial. He must think we're all as dumb as half his bloody students. So, yeah, so that's the SOL Foundation for you. It's zero credibility, complete and utter waste of time. As is ICER. I don't know if you've seen this other outfit, ICER. ICER. It's another, what they claim is a professional organisation looking into this sort of thing. They have people like Eamon Ansbro, PhD, ABD, and anybody in academia. If anyone calls themselves PhD, ABD, anybody in academia will put a line through that person's name, because ABD means all but dissertation. That means he doesn't have a PhD. More exaggeration, more lies, more rubbish. His gizmo for talking to aliens, should see some pictures of it. He's got some ordinary copper coils there, a lot of inductance, a lot of turns on them. It's not going to be talking to aliens with that, you know. If it worked anywhere at all, it'd be on bloody long wave. But apparently you have to use the device to couple your consciousness to the aliens. And ICER are taking this seriously. It's all complete and utter crap. You know, it's like Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis, you know, reaching out to aliens with their consciousness. You know, Stephen Greer summoning aliens with his consciousness. And of course it's all science fiction drivel, absolute bloody rubbish. Anybody says they're reaching out to aliens or anything else with their consciousness, put a line through anything they've got to say. It's complete and utter nonsense. So SOL Foundation, Gary Nolan, shit out of luck foundation, put a line through it. You're not going to get anything useful from that. It's complete and utter claptrap. Same with ICER. I can't even remember what that stands for now. Chocolates and ICERs. Chocolates, ICERs. That's what the girl used to say when she came round at matinee time at the cinema. I wasn't showing my age there. I used to go to Saturday morning pictures when it was 2 bob. Blimey. Back in the UK, of course. So I've mentioned the religious professor. Oh yeah, Diana Walsh-Pasulka. Saw the strange owl and suffered some missing time, experienced some missing time. Oh, she also said that when she was taken out with Gary Nolan into the desert, this is 10 years ago, by this guy that apparently worked for NASA, he said he wanted her point of view on the religious aspects of aliens, you know, what their religious beliefs might be. And I thought, well, you're not going to glean much by looking at a lot of debris, especially if it's terrestrial debris from missiles, you know. But I mean, you pick up a piece of material, how can you possibly get a religious perspective from that? You know, unless it was a crash flying saucer and it had stained glass windows depicting images of their religious icons, you know, sort of thing you get in churches here. What possible information could you glean from wreckage? Complete and utter drivel. And remember, of course, the TTSA, Tom DeLong, I think I mentioned it in the last video, Hal Putoff, and Eric Davis. He was, oh yeah, we know how to build a starship, so yeah, all we need is the money. So Tom DeLong goes on there, yeah, send us money, we'll build a starship, interstellar spacecraft. Well, people sent money in, no spacecraft. They got no idea how to build an interstellar spacecraft. At this point in time, it cannot be done. They have never seen examples of interstellar spacecraft from aliens. You know, and have all the people that invested in air quote marks ask for their money back because nothing has been produced, no work has been done on an interstellar spacecraft. I'm bloody sure I would, if that was me, I would be screaming for my money back. So that's the TTSA. Put a line through the TTSA. Complete and utter rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Science fiction drivel. What else have we got? I think I mentioned pretty much everything here. Betterton-Kroll lead purification process is where the metamaterial, the layered bismuth and magnesium come from. Non-extraterrestrial at all. Gary Nolan says you can't excite it with terahertz, only the military can do that. Complete and utter rubbish. I could probably do that if you sent me some. Do that with lasers. You need to know the specific frequency though, so get your act together, Nolan. If you're going to talk about terahertz, tell us what the frequency is. Because it might be on the realms of possibility I might be able to get hold of this stuff and give it a squirt with some of the terahertz that you come up with. Yeah. So, oh, just an example of terahertz frequencies. You've got a domestic microwave oven. Now, whatever you do, don't take. You got some. You got some mesh in the door. Whatever you do, do not take the mesh out of the door. Okay. Now, the little holes in the mesh are so small that, as far as the microwaves, the 2.45 gigahertz microwave frequency that's inside, at about 1,000 watts, that's inside the microwave, cannot escape the microwave. Can't get through the holes. That particular frequency sees that mesh sheet as a solid sheet. So the microwaves can't escape and cook your eyeballs while you're looking at your pizza cooking or whatever you put in those things. Now the little tiny holes that are in there allow light out of the microwave, and those little tiny holes are many wavelengths across at light frequencies, because light frequencies are nanometers. And when you look at the frequency of lasers, the wavelengths are nanometers. A lot of them are not even visible light lasers. Nanometer wavelengths. Terahertz. Lots of terahertz. So yeah, I think that's just even more flannel from Gary Nolan. You know, if you can't, he knows it's like Linda Moulton-Howe, you know, once she knows it's not extraterrestrial material, she doesn't tell you anything about it. She's going to hide the fact that the results have come back from the tests as ordinary terrestrial material. Same thing with Gary Nolan. Knows the Texas sphere is a ball check valve made in America. He won't tell you. He knows his metamaterials are no such thing. He knows they're terrestrial materials. But he won't tell you, because you're not entitled to the results. Not until he finds some extraterrestrial material. Then everybody will be more than entitled to his results. Oh dear. I don't know. What a bunch of piffle peddlers. To quote Senator Burchett, for the last time for this video, it's an industry. These guys are frauds. There's nothing to any of this extra. This is me now, not Mr. Burchett. It's all science fiction claptrap. All right. Well, I hope you found that interesting. As always, struggled through the video all the way to this point. Thank you very much indeed for watching. This might actually be the end of part 2. As I said, I'm not going to join it up. It takes too long. An old computer, and you know, trying to join a couple of clips together takes forever. So I'm not going to bother doing that. If this is split into 2 or 3 parts, that's how I'll post it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed a bit of Australian scenery, and maybe I'll catch you again.